Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome back to another crappy video. Today, Ricky is gonna explain how you can spend $600 to save money. That's a good one. This I gotta see. Ah, jeez.
Hello, Richard from budgetguitarist.com. Today, I want to talk about my old pedal board and why I unloaded it and got myself an HX Stomp. So let me clear some room here. Let's see, I'll come over here a little bit. Okay, so there's my pedal board. And let's just kind of go through these, shall we? Why did I feel the need for a pedal board? Okay, in addition to writing and recording music and putting it out there and, you know, trying to get people to listen to it, in some cases trying to get it licensed, I also like to go out and perform my own music, and I also like to go out and perform covers. So these days I'm focusing kind of on like the music of the 60s and the 70s. Which is kind of interesting. A lot of good stuff from the 60s and 70s. I've been working on building up a new live show when COVID hit. So that kind of sucked. But in order to pull off a whole big, huge variety of music, I need to be able to have a lot of different guitar sounds. So looking at the upper left-hand corner and starting there, we've got the TC Electronics Hall of Fame reverb. You have to have a reverb pedal. Now, I do have a Bassbreaker 15 amp, and that has a built-in reverb, but when I bought the Hall of Fame, I was playing an amp that didn't have a reverb, and so that's why I have a reverb. Next to that, you got the TC Electronics Flashback, which is a delay pedal, because you need delay. And then next to that, we've got the TC Electronics Corona, and that is a stereo chorus pedal. Then we got the micro amp. Micro amp is good for like if you got a guitar solo and you just want to hit it and give it a little boost. It's really good for that. Then I wanted a couple of different distortion sounds. So I had a couple of Wampler pedals. I got the Pinnacle there, which is really good at the kind of Eddie Van Halen-ish kind of higher gain stuff. And then I've also got the Plexi Drive, which was good for like the older kind of, you know, early 70s classic rock sounds. So you can see sort of the palette I was going for here. Then I've got a wild card in here. I've got the Digitech Freakout. That's basically a pedal where you can hit a note and you hold down on the pedal and it'll give you like amp feedback. It'll like simulate the amp feeding back, and it's got a bunch of different cool sounds. It was so much fun to play with that pedal. But I didn't really have a practical use for it. And then we've got the little Wow Wow pedal. That's a, oh, what the heck is it? I don't even remember what brand that is. There's probably only like one of them. But it's, you know, it's about like this big and it fits on a pedal board. It sounds really good. And, you know, I really liked it. And then finally, we've got the Keeley 4-knob compressor, which is just sort of like a make better box. It's really good at just kind of evening everything out for you. And I traded in my entire pedal board, like the actual board and every pedal on it, except for the Keeley 4-knob. That's the one pedal that I kept. And you can see it. It is right back here on top of this amp right now. If we start talking about the money that I put into this pedal board, it totals up to a lot of money. And in reality, at some point in time, I should have stopped myself and just bought the HX Stomp, but I didn't. Okay, so let me back up. The pedal board that I had here did sound really good, but it wasn't programmable. And so then I started to think about getting one of those, like Boss makes a unit where you can, you know, do these presets and stuff. And I was trying to get into like, for this song, I could set this to do that. And I quickly realized that like, if I really wanted something where I could have like a programmed sound, I was on the wrong track with this stuff. And what I really needed to do was buy Helix, but I couldn't afford a Helix. But the HX Stomp was out there, and at the time that was $650. And I thought about it. And then the Pod Go came out. And I said, aha, $450, that's what I'm going to buy. So this pedal board here, I basically sold everything on the board, including the board, except for the Keeley 4 knob. And I put that money towards my PA. And that went a long way towards paying for these two big powered speakers. So that's what I did with that. And then I had every intention of buying the Pod Go. I actually ordered it 3 different times from Sam Ash online, and every single time they took my order, and then the next morning they canceled my order. So they kept advertising it when they didn't have it in stock. So I emailed them. I'm like, what the heck, you know? And what they did is they gave me a really good deal on an HX Stomp. So why didn't I just wait for the Pod Go to be available? If I'd have waited another month and a half or 2 months, I could have bought it. Well, basically this. For my live gig, I am running backing tracks. Hang on, let me get rid of this graphic here. Okay, and move back over. So for my live gig, I'm running on this computer, I'm running backing tracks, which is usually just drums and bass. Then I'm singing and playing guitar, or I'm singing and I'm playing keyboards, or sometimes I'm doing both at the same time. And what I really wanted was, using Ableton on the laptop, I wanted that to be able to send patch changes to whatever guitar amp pedal simulator system I was running. Now, the HX Stomp has MIDI. And the nice thing about MIDI is it's not an audio path. It's just like data, right? Whereas the Pod Go, it's got a USB port. But if you connect a USB port to a computer and you've got other stuff connected and you've got it going through a PA, and then you're in like a club or a bar or some, you know, moose lodge or something, you can expect to hear some high-pitched whine sounds. It's really, really better if you're sending patch changes to use MIDI and not USB. And that is ultimately what convinced me to go with the HX Stomp. So I replaced the pedal board with the HX Stomp. So what I think I want to do now is I'm going to do like a little presentation and just kind of show you like what I had on the board and what I replaced it with on the Stomp. And then I'm just going to kind of talk about, you know, what I gained and what I lost, and in general, what my thoughts are about it. Okay, here's a comparison of my old pedal board versus my HX Stomp. In terms of cost, my old pedal board, if you wanted to build it right now, I'm going to go with around $1,300. That's about what you'd have to pay to duplicate that board right now. I mean, unless you bought used. And if you wanted to buy an HX Stomp with the least expensive Line 6 expression pedal, let's call that around $700. So almost half the cost. Let's see what we get. How do we stack up? Well, my old pedal board had a chorus pedal. It sounded okay. The HX Stomp has 3, 6, 9, 12. Well, it's got a lot of other options. It's got tremolo, it's got a phaser, it's got a univibe, it's got a flanger, and it's got chorus, and it's got a ring modulator. So as you can see, there's a lot of different options there. My old pedal board had the Keeley 4 knob compressor, which I actually kept. That's a great compression pedal. I think it's awesome. But the HX Stomp has a much bigger variety. It's a lot more programmable and a lot more useful. When it comes to delay, I had the TC Electronic Flashback, which is a good pedal, which also has a looper functionality built into it. But I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 delays, as well as a looper on the Stomp. So any kind of delay effect you can imagine, just about you can get out of the Stomp. I would say the Stomp wins there. Now the Freakout was an unlimited feedback pedal, which meant you could play a note, hold down the pedal, and it would simulate the sound of an amp feeding back. The HX Stomp has nothing that can achieve that same effect. And I almost kept this pedal because it's so unique. There's 2 reasons I didn't keep it. One, musically, it was fun to play with, but it didn't really come in that handy for the music I'm covering or composing. And 2, it's an extremely noisy pedal. And so if you want to put this in a loop with other pedals, forget about it. So really noisy pedal. But yeah, my old pedal board wins on that account. Okay, The micro amp is a great boost pedal by MXR. You can pick these up used for like 50 bucks. But it can't really compete with a variety of boosts and distortions and overdrives that come with the Stomp. I mean, the Minotaur is a very good simulation of a Klon, and we've got several versions of the Tube Screamer, and there's just a lot of different cool options. I mean, it's really no contest. Speaking of no contest, my old board, I had the Pinnacle and the Plexi Drive, both by Wampler, which I think is a great company. The Pinnacle is like an Eddie Van Halen kind of sound, and the Plexi Drive is an older, more like a 70s rock distortion sound. Two of the sounds I was going for. Now, honestly, the amp simulators inside the HX Stomp can do both of those sounds better than the Wampler pedals can, and they also give you all of these other pedal varieties. This is really no contest. Just about any amp I can think up, there's something very, very close to it inside the HX Stomp. And they all sound really good if you know how to tweak them correctly. Reverb. There are definitely better reverbs in the HX Stomp, and there are definitely more reverbs in the HX Stomp. And I'll just leave it at that. So the wah pedal, I had the Dunlop, the mini wah pedal. That is a great wah pedal. If you want a wah pedal, I would highly recommend that you check that one out. It's just perfectly in tune with what I think a wah pedal should be. Having said that, it's also kind of nice to have 10 different wah simulators inside the HX Stomp. So do they sound as good as the real thing? I'd say they sound 90% as good as the real thing. Now cabinets, I did not have a cabinet simulator on my old pedal board. Obviously, I've got tons of cabinets, and you can simulate different kinds of miking configurations and all kinds of stuff in the Stomp. But more importantly, you can import your own IR files. And there are IR files for any speaker cabinet you could possibly imagine. So when it comes to trying to simulate the sound of a speaker cabinet, the HX Stomp can do it really, really well, and my old pedal board could not. My old pedal board also had no pitch shifters, like the Digitech pitch shifter pedal, where you can knock your guitar down by an octave or up by an octave. Joe Satriani used it in concert every time I saw him. I always thought that was a cool pedal, but it was like 200 bucks, and I just never want to spend that kind of money. Well, it's built into the HX Stomp, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of other effects in there where you can basically play one note and have 3 or 4 come out, and that comes in handy for some of the songs that I'm covering. So really cool. Filters, I don't honestly use filters. I guess maybe one day I'll play around with them, but there are filters in the Stomp. I didn't have them on my own pedal board, blah, blah, blah. EQ, I was very tempted to spend 50 or 60 bucks on a used Boss 7-band EQ pedal back in the day. Now I'm glad I didn't, because I've got these 7 EQ pedals in the Stomp, and they're all really good. I often find myself going with the 10-band graphic, though, just because it's so fast and easy to use. All right, so programmability. My old pedal board was not programmable. If I wanted a different sound, I had to lean over, turn the knobs, and flip the switches. And so if I wanted to have, say, 3 or 4 different guitar sounds in a song, well, that's a lot of tap dancing and reaching over. In the HX Stomp, you can program anything. And so I could have a patch where I want the mid-range knob on the amp to go up by 1 only during the chorus, and I could set that up. I can combine any pedals. It's ridiculously programmable, and so there's really no excuse. I could have a totally different set of pedals, amp, and cabinet on the verse than I have on the chorus. It really makes the old pedal board concept seem obsolete. The thing about the old pedal board is pedal boards are often used by guys who play through one amp, and they've got their sound, and they're not trying to simulate a whole bunch of different sounds like I am. So, you know, as they say in England, horses for courses. So my conclusion, for me, the HX Stomp emulates about 60 grand worth of equipment, and it costs about $600. If you're budget minded like I am, that's just way too good a deal to pass up, and the Pod Go is only $450. I mean, for the cost of 3 of the pedals on my old board, you could have a Pod Go, and it has 95% of everything I just showed you that the HX Stomp has. And so for my purposes, where I want to be able to sound like Steely Dan, Alan Parsons, I want to be able to sound like all 4 of my own albums. I want to be able to sound like Aerosmith or whoever I'm covering. This is the way to go. It just plain is. When would buying pedals make sense? Well, if you are absolutely loaded, you know, it can be fun to buy pedals. And if you want the most authentic tone possible, all of the emulations in the HX Stomp are just that. They're emulations. They get 85 to 90% of the way there. If you want to get 100% of the way there and you're willing to spend the extra money, you should buy the real thing. Conversely, if you're broke and maybe you only have $50 or $100 and you need a delay, then you can just go buy that delay pedal. You don't have to drop $450 on something like the Pod Go. Or maybe you already own a big pedal collection and you're exploring ways of making your pedal board more programmable, which you can do, but you will never have the same programmability of something like the Stomp. So maybe you want something like the Freak Out, or you want some effects that are not included in the Stomp. Well, the only way to get them is to buy the pedal. You might also think that a big pedal board looks cool, and I agree. I think they do look cool. And it also can be fun to collect pedals. Here's another reason, though. You don't like tweaking values on screens or in little boxes, turning knobs or working on computer screens. You just want to be able to turn a couple of knobs and just start playing, and you can't be bothered with technology. If you're anti-tech, this is not a good route for you. There are many, many, many options, and it can be paralyzing if you're not into tech. And I'm sure that there are some other reasons that I am not thinking of right now, so I'm just going to say some reason I'll think of later. So there you go. If you want a lot of different pedals and amps, then something like the Pod Go or the HX Stomp, I think, is a great way to go. You're not going to be able to achieve this stuff with pedals. It's just not possible. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to, and as always, you know, we will see you next Friday at 5.